Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, I'm excited to have our special guest today and be here with you today. With it being Thursday, it's a nice starting to actually kind of warm up here in Austin, Texas. But I'm so honored because we have our special guest joining us from all the way from California. My good friend Maureen Machine Guns McCann joined us to talk about the hot market, what's going on in the blooming city of Birmingham, Alabama. So good afternoon, Maureen. How you doing?
Good afternoon, Scott and crew. How are you?
Doing wonderful. Really excited to have you. I know we've been exchanging emails over the last couple of weeks. I know you've got a very, very busy schedule. Things are really rocking for you guys as well with everything going on. And then, of course, you are juggling being a full-time mom as well, along with being a solid investor, making high returns for people out there with their turnkey stuff there in Birmingham. But for those that don't know who Machine Guns is, and what's funny, what's great is I don't know if people can see, those that are watching us live on Facebook Live, I literally have that on Maureen's title. It says Maureen Machine Guns McCann. Those that are listening, we've been friends for a while. Actually met online through different friends, and we ran in the same circles and actually had an opportunity to meet finally after cracking up at each other at Aaron Young's event.
Yeah, magnify well.
Pretty well, having a good time with her. But so, Maureen, tell them who you are and why they should listen to you.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So by day, I wear my super cape with being a mom of 3 kids. But what I really do for my investors, I just help them create passive income for their portfolio. So let me start off. First and foremost, my most important role is mom, right? And I do everything for my little ones, especially being what I want them to be. So if I want them to be entrepreneurs and thinkers, then I have to show them what that looks like on a daily basis. So, I was a W-2 wage earner for 15 years. I was in the pharmaceutical medical device world and made the leap 10 years ago into entrepreneurship. Scary, like when Richard Branson said, jump out of the plane and just say yes and build the plan on the way down. And that's exactly what I did. It was not the most beautiful flight, but I landed, and I've landed and built an amazing company here in Birmingham, with also being a really good role model to my kids on how to be an entrepreneur.
Right. Now, with being an entrepreneur for 10 years, what kind of happened to cause you kind of to dive into the jump out of the plane and hopefully not come up crashing?
Well, okay. So I am originally from Jersey, so I have a little bit of an attitude, and I don't like people telling me what to do. So
No.
just don't. And so when I have to ask permission to take 2 weeks off to go hang out with my kids, I just think that's ridiculous. And I didn't want to be 50 years old at someday having to ask permission. And so an opportunity had presented itself to, take the leap. And I thought, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. And I always, in my back of my mind and in my heart of hearts, I always thought of wanting to do something on my own and be a business. And an opportunity presented itself. And so I took it, and I started off really as a 1099. Really, that's how I started first. And so all of a sudden the car benefit went away. The health benefits went away. The steady income check every 2 weeks went away. And that's where you find out what you're made of when you have to make stuff happen.
You find out definitely what you're made of. So what attracted you to real estate? I mean, obviously, is it calling your own shots and stuff like that? Is that kind of the biggest thing that you just mentioned? Is it the money? I mean, 10 years ago was a bit of a rough time to be getting into real estate for a lot of people, or people that were in it, that were leaving it, fleeing it like rats in a sinking ship, right?
True. So that's actually good. Let's go back there, right? So 2008, I think everybody knows that was a very pivotal year for them, and for me as well. And so at that time, I was still in my W-2 job, frustrated, kind of getting bounced around from different pharmaceutical companies through mergers and acquisitions. And that's when I was like, okay, I really got to just jump out, bird out of the nest, just got to go. And what I realized, Scott, is that the 50% of my portfolio disappeared overnight.
Wow.
Exactly. Right. So here I was like working all of these years, and I would get my little fidelity statements each quarter, and it was in the black, in the black, and in the black. It kept going up. I was like, wow, this is awesome. Right. And then until it wasn't, until it was like quarter one, red, quarter two, red, quarter three, red. And I'm like sitting there hemorrhaging, and I don't know how to stop it. I had no control over it. So that's when I made the decision that I was going to figure out how to create wealth through real estate. Because I knew, when I live in California, there's this really exclusive neighborhood called La Jolla. And when you drive past it, you see these gorgeous homes way up on the hill with these 380-degree views of the Pacific Ocean. And I'm like, what did they know that I don't know? How are they able to live up there and I can't? And I knew that the majority of people that had wealth were either rock stars, politicians, real estate investors, business owners. And I knew, I'm not J-Lo, can't shake it. I'm not Beyonce, can't sing. I'm not sure she can sing either. But I knew that I could figure out real estate, and I knew that I could be a business owner. So out of the categories, I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And you know what? I invested in coaches. I invested in my education. Easily, probably now, because I still invest in my education, it's easily over 125 grand. It's just learning from the people that are doing this so that you can get better. And I pursued that vigorously, and it led me to the opportunity of turnkey real estate, first as a consultant for a company based in Memphis, and then in the last 5 years as an owner with I almost said my old company. I can't promote them. What am I doing? Spartan Invest. So, so Clayton Lindsay and I have been building this for the last 5 years. And to put it in perspective, we went from 175 million in revenue to 24 million at the end of 2017. So rocking and rolling and kicking butt.
That's awesome. Now let's talk about what's so exciting about make sure and say the right city, because we don't want to mess you up again.
Thank you. Oh my God.
Birmingham. What people think about it. The reason I will throw this out there, because we have a lot of note investors that listen. I'm like, what's so great about Birmingham? Doesn't Alabama have a long 1-year redemption period after foreclosure? And it's true, they do, but there's still a lot of growth going on in Birmingham, and you can overcome that right redemption period by just having the borrower sign their rights away. But it's a really, really great market. Talk about some of the things that are going on there in Birmingham.
Oh my gosh, where do I start? Well, let me tell you about the two economic drivers that are just really, they're just the catalysts that have just exploded the growth in Birmingham. So the first is the foreign investment capital. So here's what happened. Let me give you there's a very colorful history in Birmingham. And I think even myself, when I accepted an invitation 5 years ago from Clayton to come check out Birmingham, I literally am on a flight from San Diego to Birmingham. And here's my attitude. I'm like, Birmingham? What the heck is in Birmingham, Alabama? Like, that was just my attitude, right? Because I had these false beliefs that I had carried from the past to present day, not knowing what was actually really happening there. So let me one more little ugliness, right, of Birmingham. So there are 7 counties in Birmingham. Jefferson County is the largest. They had the largest municipal bankruptcy in the United States until a different city took over 2 years later. I'll be kind. I won't mention the city. Anyway, so we kind of have these blemishes in the past. And so I think a lot of people think about those things instead of focusing on what has been the change that's been happening and what's been the catalyst for the change. So the good news about the bankruptcy is that it wasn't because of obsolescence. It was because of a loan that we had defaulted on for new infrastructure. So all new water systems, new sewer lines were put in for Jefferson County. So we basically got all new infrastructure for half the cost. Brilliant move. I don't think they planned it that way, but it worked out that way. Okay. So there was a little blemish. Now, what happened was those city officials at that time in 2011 knew that they had to do something different, and they had to be radical with something that they did. And they needed to do what? Create jobs. Because if you create jobs, then things get better. So they were, if you look at the cities that have the largest foreign investment capital, Birmingham is in the top. And it is because the city officials and government officials, they went out to international business and looked for those that wanted to have a foothold in the United States with their business operations. And they made it super sexy and super attractive to bring those businesses here. And they did in droves, predominantly in auto manufacturing, right? You've got Mercedes, Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, and then recently Toyota Mazda, they just announced a $1.6 billion auto manufacturing plant that will be opened in 2021, bringing with it 4,500 new jobs right in my backyard where we're investing. So those foreign dollars really were a catalyst for the renaissance that's really happening. The second biggest point and the second largest economic driver in Birmingham was it's the historical tax credit. It's a refundable tax credit offered by the Historical Alabama Commission, or Alabama Historical Commission. There you go. And when you're offering a refundable tax credit, what that means is you've got properties that if they're 60 years or older, whether they're residential or commercial, you are going to get a tax credit on revitalizing those infrastructure and buildings. So if I were to show you right now, and anyone could go on to Birmingham Business Journal, it's going to cost you $115 for the year, but it's worth it. Go on there, and what you'll see is an interactive map. It's called Crane Watch. Any city that has a segment in their Birmingham, in their journal called Crane Watch, it's like, why do you have a Crane Watch? Because there's so much activity going on that it's mind-boggling. So essentially what you look at is a map. It's an interactive map with a bunch of different pins all over it. You click on the pin, up pops up the name of the developer, how much they're spending on the investment, what they're purposing the building for, when it's supposed to open. And you see everything from luxury apartments in downtown Birmingham, Alabama. Hello. Yes, it's true. They do have luxury now, but we'll see a Tesla every now and then driving down the road. But yeah, you're seeing there's $40, $50 million projects happening on every street corner, just revitalizing the city. It's fun. It's really fun.
So that's a good thing, because we had something similar here in Austin with the Crane Watch, because we had pre-approved projects were going up and things like that, and they're starting to come back here with things. So that's good. There's a lot of growth going on, a lot of construction going on in the downtown area. Now let's talk about the residential side of things. Are you seeing that? Let's what's an average price point on a single family house, in Birmingham, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so the range is between 80 and 125, median's 104. You're looking at rates of return on levered money between 15 and 20%.
Hang on a second. Hang on. That was a very important thing. Let's have you restate those comments, because I don't want people to blow by that. So let's talk about what again? What are the medians?
Okay, let me go really slow.
Really slow. Yes, go really slow for the Eagles fans, okay?
Oh, you went there. Hey, you may have 5 rings, but we have the W. We have the W.
Yes. So those that don't know, Maureen is a very avid Eagles fan.
Go Birds.
Yeah, go Dead Birds. All right. I'm
feeling the love. I'm feeling the love from We Close Notes.
Yeah, that's right. Just because it's green here doesn't mean it's eagle green, okay? In my office. So anyway, let's go back to, before you got sidetracked in this train wreck. Median home price is what you say, 80 to 125 roughly?
Yes, that's the range. Median 104.
104. Okay. Mm-hmm. Which that means that's a really affordable housing in a up and coming area compared to other areas of the country, right?
Very much so. And I'll give a little bit of an insight here, because people, it's like Birmingham, the city of Birmingham has been, or the Southeast predominantly has been known for very, very modest year-over-year appreciation rates. And I'm in the cash flow business. I'm not in selling and speculation whatsoever, but it's important to note, right, that the cherry on top is always really nice. What is the trend that we've been seeing here in the last 5 years, and predominantly really in the last 2? Year over year, honestly, it's usually about 2 to 3%. In the last 2 years, we've seen it 5 to 6%. So if you look at the 3 and the 6, it's kind of double. You're going, hey, what's going on there? And that's where really the revival, the renaissance, the revitalization, these words that I'm using to describe Birmingham, it's what's happening. It's becoming, just another note too, the in-net migration into Birmingham right now, millennials with degrees, right? They're coming for the white collar jobs. We have a lot of blue collar jobs in manufacturing through diverse industries, but the in-net migration numbers show that it's the millennial with a degree who wants to live downtown, not drive a car, rent with nice amenities. And that's what Birmingham's building for them. And they're coming.
Yeah, that's very affordable compared to like Austin or even where you're at out in California too.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. It's hard to make any money unless you're a rocket scientist for the most part, right?
Or marry one. So.
Yeah. There you go. Get your Mrs. degree going or your Mr. degree. Who knows? Hey, I got somebody's who their wives make the bread on their home, take care of the kids. Nothing wrong with that. So you're seeing an influx of educated people. You see growth going on. What do you see in kind of your rent rates roughly? Because that's really a valuable number to look at too when you're looking at buying property to either keep it as a rental or I use rent rates to identify opportunities when we're buying loans, non-performing loans to see, okay, what's your existing payment versus market rent? Mm-hmm. If your rent is higher than what your existing principal and interest payment is, you need to look at reinstating. And if it's the opposite way, where rent is less than their principal and interest payments, then I have to realize that I'm going to modify that to keep them in the house. So there's really no motivation for them to stay. So what do you kind of see as rent rates?
So our rent rates, they're following sort of that 1% rule with our purchase price. It is getting pinched a little bit. We have seen it even in other markets as well. It's kind of harder to reach that 1% rule and keep it. 5 years ago, easy peasy, right? And you're just starting to see it's getting a little bit harder. I know that in some markets, it's really tough to get. We're not there yet. We're still, we've still got a low barrier of entry, a high rate of return, really solid cash flow. That's attracting the attention of a lot of investors.
So one of the things that we have done in some of the other areas, like I'll give you an example, we've focused on Detroit in the past and Columbus, and my guys that do turnkeys up in those neck of woods, they always say that anything that rents for $500 or less is a 2-gun alley, basically. Okay, it's a 2-gun alley. I mean, you might make some money, but you may end up losing it when you get stolen. Is there like a flooring when you look at decent neighborhoods of what market rent is there that you kind of can use for those that are looking, and they can use it kind of as a rough filter when they're looking at assets and things like that they see in their emails?
Yes, absolutely. So first of all, I don't look good in Kevlar, so I don't wear Kevlar.
I have seen you in some photos of camo. It's not bad. That's where you got the machine guns. Actually, that's where you got the machine guns.
That would actually be good. I think I probably
gym with a camo. All right.
You should be my new PR person. I think I need to hire you.
You can't afford me. You can't afford me.
I know you're expensive. Good talent is very, very expensive.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So what we don't wear Kevlar or bring our Glocks to go collect our rent checks. That's not our niche. We like that $800 to $1,300 a month niche. That's that working class neighborhood. The way that I describe it, it's super boring. Like, right. If I were to take these investors on a tour through the neighborhoods, you are essentially looking at pretty much nothing during the day. There's nobody around. There's no stray dogs. There's no graffiti. There's no 10 cars all on the front grass. It's just not, that's just not the way we roll. It's a solid B-class neighborhood. You're looking at, median income, $50,000 a year. You're looking at low crime, no burnouts, no vacant lots. These are just very boring, nondescript, safe and steady income producing neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm. So that's good. So, because when you say median income is about 50,000, that means if you work the numbers back in my mortgage banking brain here, most people when you look at an income, people shouldn't be spending more than roughly around 34, 33% of their income. So they're making 50,000 a year. Then a third of that's roughly around 16,000, 17,000 for the most part. And dividing that by 12 months, and you're seeing, that 1,400 a month, basically number range. When you figure in rents plus, utilities and things like that, that leads to pretty good stuff. When you look at, getting 1,200 plus a month times, that's 14,000 over $100,000 value on a house. You say that's a pretty decent cap rate with just those rough numbers like that.
Yeah. So that's why this works. I mean, I've seen it. I've been in this business long enough, 10 years now, that, you find a market like this and it hasn't been on the hot list, even though in 2014, CNN Money looked at the top 10 investment markets. Birmingham was listed there number 8, but it wasn't like people came here in droves. But if you start kind of putting this jigsaw puzzle together of third-party articles written by Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Travel Channel, CNN Money, if you start kind of clicking these pieces together, what you find is not only it's already a hot market, but it's more emerging. Like it's just kind of starting to percolate a little bit, among the different investor groups. And what will happen is what I've seen happen in a market like Memphis that really became hot is that you have mom and pops, house flippers, hedge funds, equity groups, everybody trying to make money. People are just coming out of a class that learned how to wholesale or flip, are all going, okay, that's a hot market, we got to go there, and then everyone's competing with the inventory that starts dwindling, and then the prices start going up, and then everything starts getting pinched from a returns perspective, both for the seller and the investor. And we're just not there yet. We're really kind of just in that upswing, that emerging market status. And once we hit hot, then we'll see what happens 5 years from now. But the returns that I can offer now are just not going to be the same 5 years from now.
Right. Now, you guys, let's kind of transition a little bit here with what you guys are doing at Spartan and why more, so much information about this stuff, because you guys are doing this on a daily, weekly basis out there, right? You guys are buying property, fixing them up, renting them out, bringing in investors for turnkey stuff. Correct on that aspect of things. Mm-hmm. So you guys are investing there heavily on it. Do you guys have a rough number? And if you can't give away numbers, don't say. I don't want to give away any of the insider secrets and stuff like that. But with what you guys are doing, what's your kind of median price point on your turnkey stuff that you're having really good success with?
So our median price point, there's first of all, I've got a waiting list. So there's a demand really. It doesn't really matter what the property is. It's really just it's getting into a market, because basically, when you create wealth by beating inflation, I don't care what the investment is, if it's oil and gas or wastewater treatment or, real estate, as long as the return on equity is higher than your inflation, you're creating wealth. And so that's what investors are really seeking. And I've seen that over the last 10 years. It's like they'll even take an 8 to 10%. They're fine with that. But you can diversify your investment capital into other markets that can produce higher yields.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if I have a specific answer, because there's not someone coming to me saying I have to have a 3-2 with a 15% return. Right. We're building them, a variety of properties that suit a variety of tenants so that they can keep their portfolio occupied.
So are you guys building from the ground up? Or are you going in and taking, buying foreclosures or REOs? What's kind of because that's one question we always get from people. Hey, how are you finding deals?
Distress. We're sourcing our properties from a variety of sources, but we're mostly doing distress. We do have raw land where we will be building new properties for our investors. We're just not doing that right now. We don't even have the need to do that. It's just there for when we're ready to start doing new builds.
Cool. Now, how many turnkeys are you guys doing in a year on an annual basis for the last 5 years? I know numbers obviously increased as profitability has gone up for you. Which has gone up since we last talked last year at Laughlin, the growing 2017 event with Aaron.
Yeah.
You guys, you have any numbers you want to share?
Sure. Well, so interestingly enough, we when we first started, I remember my business partner asking me, he's like, Maureen, do you think you could do like 10 a quarter? I mean, when we're first starting out, I was like, yeah, sure, I can do that. I'm like off the phone. I'm like, how the hell am I going to do that? I have no idea. Oh my God. But you say yes and jump, right? Just jump, build the airplane on the way down. So the majority of our growth has really happened in the last 3 years. So those numbers are probably better. We're averaging about 75 a quarter now.
Nice. Yeah. So 300 a year.
Yes.
That's just a little shake and bake going on there.
Just a little shake and bake. I like it.
Shake and bacon in Birmingham. There you go.
We just want to keep going, 400 and 500. So, but you have to scale up. You got to do it the right way. You don't want the construction to suffer, the customer service to suffer. So, I could probably be selling 100 houses a quarter right now if I wanted to. It's just, it wouldn't, the quality and the customer service would suffer if we just tried to blow that out and just grow that fast.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because I want people to realize this. You're not out there doing everything. You've got a great team that really has 3 or 4 segments, if I remember correctly. They handle the different aspects of it. Some people handle the marketing, some are handling the property management, some are handling the fix and flip, others are handling acquisition, correct?
Yes. there's there's no way that when we first, it's funny, if you were ever to come to our office, there's no one that says, well, I just do this, right? We all are wearing each other's hats. There's times I've had to fly back and lease properties because we just had so many properties that we needed to get leased. We didn't have the manpower. So, right. You roll up your sleeves, you do what you need to do. But yes, as we've grown, we've got a transaction closing coordinator. That's all he does is help people get from contract to close because of all the steps that need to take there. My assistant, she handles everything from sending the properties out to property selection to sending the contract out. We have Stephanie Devine, who runs the property management department. We have Rebecca just does the collections, right? Everyone has a very specific job. I mean, this gets so complicated and so big because as you get bigger, there's more bodies and more things that need to be managed and managed more tightly. So, we're in the process of we just hired 7 last year, and we've got some opportunities available in Q1 already.
That's good. Now, I do want to vouch that I have seen you jump on a plane, and you guys are doing tours and investors coming in and seeing everything going back and forth there for you. It's great. I got a question texted to me from an investor asking, okay, this sounds great. How are you finding investors? Are these more passive investors? Are they local investors? Are you getting people just in Birmingham, or you have people outside in California? How are you finding your investors for your deals?
Mostly coastal. These investors are pretty much on the coast. So there's not too many people in Birmingham that are doing this. It's usually those high equity markets. You've got investors that have a lot of equity built in their home. They're looking to deploy that inert capital and get it to working capital for them. And so we find them, actually they find us seeking a lot, but we do a lot of marketing, of course, online. Social media sites is the way to go, Google searches, but mostly podcasts.
Really?
Podcasts. There's so many people that tune in. They kind of use their cars as virtual universities. They plug into the podcast of the day and they pick up a really interesting point, or they hear something that's new that intrigues them. And then they wind up going to the contact page, filling it out and saying, hey, I'm raising my hand. I want to know a little bit more. So yeah, podcasts are very powerful.
It is, because it's a talking one-on-one. You can talk from 1 to the thousands.
Yes.
And really make some things happen. That's phenomenal. But the thing is, too, is not being afraid to get out there. You said something really good. Hey, you guys are doing social media. You're doing AdWords. You're doing a variety of different plays to help boost that marketing engine, which is great. And I'm sure you see this all the time talking with investors. Oh, I only want to do this, or I only want to do this, or I'm scared. I'm a poor little Philadelphia Eagles fan. I'm scared to do anything. I'm just joking.
You're busting a movie here.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing, I saw a great post that the best Eagles player of all time actually is a Patriots fan, Mark Ruffalo from Invincible. Yeah.
Okay, this is where I need the count. This is where I need my little shotgun right now.
Yeah, exactly. Hang on a second here.
Of course, you have a sound effect.
Got a whole soundboard here. But anyway, let's get back to the point. What's your biggest advice that you can give on a couple of things? Let's go back. Let's take it back a little bit here. Getting into or leaving your job to be a full-time investor. Do you regret any of that? Were there always roses, or were there some peaks and valleys along your journey?
Well, you can't have the really, really good without the really, really bad. And it was the best decision I ever made. You really do find out what you're made of when you make the leap. And, it's everything that you want is on the other side of everything that you fear. And fear is really just a construct in your mind, because once you walk through it and get on the other side, you're like, this was so much better than staying fearful and living small, when you could cross the threshold and live really big and really find out what your potential and your capacity is. The bad. Happy to share with you the bad, because it's easy to sit, on this side of the camera and it's like everything looks really great, right? Well, let me tell you about when we first started, and I was commission only. Remember, I left my little 2-week paycheck and all the security of the false comfort of all the benefits and stuff that I had. And I had to sell properties based commission only. Well, I didn't make enough. And all of a sudden I'm month 1 behind. on my mortgage, right? And then the second month happens, can't catch up again. I'm 2 months behind on my mortgage, right? Now the notices start coming, right? I'm 3 months behind on my mortgage, and mortgages in California are pretty freaking expensive. So I'm looking at these thousands and thousands of dollars tick up. I'm hustling, I'm trying, and your mind starts messing with you a little bit. Like, can you really do this? Are you really made of this? And you just keep taking the next step forward. You make the next call, you show up to the next event, and you show up to the next event like you've got it all together, right? You don't go there like, oh my God, I'm behind on my mortgage payment. I really need you to buy something from me. Like, no one's going to do that, right? So, no one's going to buy from you. And so then, I fell behind on my tax. I couldn't pay my tax bill. So I set up an installment agreement, and my card had gotten stolen. Forgot to call them and say, hey, use this new card. Guess what happened after 4 months of non-payment? There's this thing called a tax levy, which I experienced, right? So people, whenever you give them your information, your account information for the automatic deposit for the refund you're expecting, guess what? The money can go in the opposite direction in 4 accounts siphoned. I'm at the grocery store. I'm trying to buy groceries for the kids. Denied. First card, denied. I'm like, I know there's money in there. That's weird. Second card, I slide, denied. These are debit cards. I'm like, what? Something is up. I go home, look online. And so I have $0, right? So I have no money in the bank. I'm 3 months behind on my mortgage. And I racked up a $30,000 credit card bill just for living expenses in Southern California, right? So when you talk about your back's against the wall, right? Is it rosy when you take the leap? Do you skin your knees a little bit? Do you sleep with your eyes open, staring at the ceiling with the lump at the back of your throat going, how am I going to make this happen? And, and then what happens is that when you start having some success, when you start getting the sales and you're starting to pay these creditors, and you're reducing your credit card debt, and you're starting to have some success. You know what the weird thing is that you're so busy, my parents came from, they were blue collar workers, always worked for money, never knew how to make money work for them. I was changing this mindset for myself, and you're always busy working hard. Like I was always working hard. And then all of a sudden you're having this success, but you're still working hard because you don't feel like you can stop, because that's all that you've known for decades before. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I can relax and just kind of enjoy this, like receive it. But you'll never be able to get to that point unless you face your fear, walk through it, take the jump, buy your first rental property, buy your first note, do the thing that scares the bejesus out of you, and watch what happens to your life. It changes drastically.
That is so awesome. And I appreciate you sharing all that. You'd shared that story with me before, and I didn't know you were going to share it here, but thank you. I know a lot of people out there are going to appreciate that, for sharing that, because I think that's, I went through tough times. I think what's the saying? The juice isn't as sweet without the squeeze, I
was choked.
You
choked.
Yeah, that's never a fun thing. But I think a lot of people are going through that. They're getting outpriced in their market where they're living at, whether it's in other areas of the country or California, things like that. They're not making as much. They keep working on that hamster wheel and not getting anywhere, but they're also scared to take that leap to kind of work for themselves or go become an investor with it. And I don't care what it is, fix and flipping, turnkey rentals, notes, whatever, tax liens, whatever it is, as long as they get focused and knock those negative thoughts to the back of the head, reaching out to people. I'm sure you've had some really amazing mentors along the way too that have helped out, huh, Maureen?
Yes, absolutely. I used to be the one that was like, I'm not hiring someone to do that for me. Like, I can figure it out. I'm smart enough. Well, guess what? I stood on the sidelines for so long saying that I was going to figure it out. And once I actually paid for someone to help me with their expertise, it's worth the investment. Like, I've spent thousands upon thousands of coaches and continue to do so. I've got a coach right now, I pay him handsomely. You know why? Because he elevates my game. And those little nuggets, like you said earlier, when you go to these, traffic and conversion conventions, or you go to, fortune builders boot camps, or whatever it is, you pick up something, some little nugget that if you just implement it, it changes your business. And it really starts with your mind. It's a little nugget inside your mind, right? It's like that little I can't, I'm afraid, I'm scared, I won't let my kids use the word can't. They say can't, and I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. I don't even know what that means. And then they go, okay, yeah, so it's challenging, Mom, but I know I can figure it out, because now your brain is rewired to say, instead of saying you can't, you hit a stop sign when you say, okay, it's challenging, but I can still figure it out. There's a way around it.
That's good. Removing the can't from your vocabulary is a great thing, because nobody can accomplish anything. And one of the big things I like to say is Henry Ford's favorite quote: whether you think you can or can't, you're correct. It's all about mental aspect. And I think we're all really blessed, whether you like the guy or not, seeing what Elon Musk is doing right now with all the stuff people tell him he can't do something. I mean, I think it's a brilliant way to get rid of all the lemons of the Teslas out there. Just shoot them all into space,
And bring them back down to land perfectly on the little island in the ocean.
I've got a buddy. I think David Hartman, he's a buddy of mine. I think you may know him as well too. Runs a couple podcasts. Has been around for years, and he was so excited about to get his Tesla and drive it from California to Vegas and just sit there and let it drive it. And then about a month later, he's like, "Oh my God, I want to kill this!" And finally got his money back on stuff like that. But the idea is, it all comes down. If he hadn't thought about it, Elon Musk hadn't put about doing things in place, he wouldn't be where he is today. And he's had plenty of failures along the way, and massive failures. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I see people that are afraid just to even open their mouth at the local RIA club or send out an email to their database. That just drives me bonkers, because they're the only ones that are holding them back from success.
Yes. You know what? So I heard an interview by Sarah Blakely. And for those people that are listening, if they don't know who she is she created Spanx, and she's the first made woman billionaire, single owner billionaire of a company. And I loved what her dad said to her every day. When she was little, he would say, "So, hey, honey, what'd you fail at today?" And she tells the story about, like, well, I didn't fail at anything, right? Because we all have that image, like, oh, I've got it all together. Like, I don't fail, I do everything right all the time. And, he said, well, honey, you didn't fail. He's like, you failed because you didn't try anything new. And so here, so then the conversation goes on over the years that she shares. It's like, hey, honey, what'd you fail at today? And she's like, oh, well, Dad, I played soccer today and I totally missed the ball and I fell. I embarrassed myself in front of everybody. He's like, what'd you learn? Right? He's like, so you don't fail because you learn the lesson. And so I say that same thing to my kids. They come home, we sit down, we do homework, and go, hey, what'd you fail at today? I don't ask them, where'd you succeed at today? What'd you fail at today? And yeah, so that it turns that failure into like a negative, internalized thing into hey, I learned something, I made a mistake, but got the lesson, I'm moving on to the next thing.
Yeah, exactly. If you could go back and tell a little younger Maureen McCann from 10 years ago a lesson, what would it be?
Fear is always going to be there. Just ignore it. It's never going to go away. You're never going to feel ready. You're never going to feel comfortable. You can't wait for things to feel comfortable and then do them. You have to walk through the fear, be uncomfortable. And when you do get through that fear and you do live through that uncomfortableness, it wasn't as bad as you thought it was.
That's beautiful. A couple questions. I like to ask people to start a new segment called 5 and 5. What's the book that you're reading right now?
Ooh, Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright.
Okay. What's the most recent song you listen to in your iPod?
Ooh, Bruno Mars. I'm a huge Bruno Mars fan, so I don't know if I can. 24 karat.
24 karat. Very good. Very good. Very good. If very good. I like that. 24 karat's a great song.
Hey, I'm living for that. I'm trying to get that.
There you go. And then if you were a superhero, who would you be?
Ooh, superhero. Who would I be? I like having X-ray vision and being invisible. So who is that?
Invisible Man? No.
Right, because then you get to hear what everyone's saying about you when you're invisible. And I like when someone tells me, "Oh, she can't do that." I'm like, "Oh, you just better believe you just put that as an assurance right now that it's going to happen."
Exactly.
But if I had to pick one superhero, I guess I would say Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman. Okay. Yeah. Can see that. Yeah. Good stuff.
Not because of her outfit.
What?
Not because of her outfit.
Not because of her outfit. No, I mean, yeah. Nothing wrong with the outfit. Nothing wrong with the outfit. Just as a badass, though. That's the badass. You can't tell me no. I'm going to prove you wrong. Yeah, I think they cast perfectly for that movie. with it, everything like that. So definitely. So that's great. So tax-free wealth, 24 karat, and Bruno Mars, and Wonder Woman. All right.
Yeah.
You already answered to say cat or dog. I saw your cat jump on behind there. And then I have to say, I guarantee your bedroom is never that clean all the time, right? Is that where you're at? Because that looks like it's a perfectly made bed. Okay.
I have a cleaning lady. She does a really good job.
How much stuff is shoved underneath the bed that we can't see?
Well, because before I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be on this call. So I do have, it's funny, I have an office here in San Diego, which I never go to. So, because I just like working out of my home. And so why do I have to, I've got basically sweatpants on underneath here and a really nice shirt just to impress you.
There you go. Hey, it's all right.
But as soon as this camera goes off, it's a ball cap and my yoga gear.
Last question for you, then we'll let you go for the day. And thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Continuing to build Spartan Invest, but also building my own personal brand on how to help people create wealth in their life, and just not in dollars, but in spirit and in contribution. So, yeah.
Awesome. And what's the website for Spartan Invest?
SpartanInvest.com.
Awesome. Great. Maureen, thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure to have y'all hang out with you. We don't hang out as much as we should, definitely. So
love to see you more. Thank you.
Yes, anytime. Guys, once again, it's Maureen McCann with Spartan Invest. Check it out. If you're investing in the Birmingham, looking for a hot market, Maureen will take good care of you as well on that aspect if you're looking for passive returns. And I have to say, Maureen does walk the talk. You were out in Austin or Central Texas a while ago looking at oil
wells.
Yeah, an oil well or something like that.
And wastewater treatment, yes.
That's right, wastewater treatment. And Gonzales, Texas or something like that.
I don't even know where I was exactly. Yeah, no, it's about diversification. So from commercial real estate, residential real estate, angel investor, startup, oil and gas, wastewater treatment, cocoa farms, coffee beans. I mean, you name it. I'm invested in it or looking to invest in it.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Maureen. You have a wonderful day. Good luck with the kids, and we'll see you at the top. All right.
You got it. Ciao.
Bye. All right. Bye. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Note Closer Show. Once again, check out Spartan Invest and Maureen McCann as well. Lots of great stuff going on. We kind of kicks off the first episode of our special city series that we'll be running and going forward. We'll be highlighting 10 markets across the country. Maureen is a great start to what's going on. So have a great afternoon, morning, or evening, wherever it is for you. And make sure to check out this episode on iTunes or podcasts or any of that stuff out there that we have available for you guys as well. And like I said, go out and do something. And we'll see you all at the top, everybody. Bye.